Afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Pacyna. I'm the CEO of Reprieve Cardiovascular, and I'm excited to tell a little bit more of the Reprieve story today. So first, Reprieve was founded in 2020, just outside of Boston. We've raised $42 million to date from a well-rounded venture syndicate. Acute heart failure is a really large unmet need that is still out there today. And one of the things is to think about these patients are the patients that show up mostly through the emergency room. They're volume overloaded, meaning they're complaining of shortness of breath or they have swelling in their extremities. It's the number 2 admission for most hospitals in the world. There's over 6 million of those hospitalizations. We have breakthrough device status, and just about a month ago, we received FDA approval to start our pivotal trial later this year. We've got strong clinical evidence. We've treated over 200 patients to date. I'm going to show you the 100-patient randomized pilot study that we just completed and presented at THT back in February. We've got a strong and simple reimbursement pathway, over 32 issued patents, and I'm sitting here today as we're rounding out our Series B raise that will take us through the pivotal trial into launch in 2027. So a little bit more about these acute decompensated heart failure patients. There's 5 million admissions alone in the United States. Over 1 million of those are the primary diagnosis for acute heart failure. A little study that was published earlier last year was looking at what is the standard of care today versus what was the standard of care 20 years ago. And what's interesting is if you see these patients, their average length of stay is 6 days in the hospital. So these patients are generally money losing for the hospital. Their average weight loss is 7 pounds. And if you look at the histogram below, basically against a registry that was done 20 years ago, there's been no change despite a ton of effort to try to change the trajectory of these patients. So why is it so hard? It's hard because the physicians are always trying to balance how fast can I diurese a patient with can I keep the kidneys healthy while I'm doing that? And it is not easy to do because the patients are complicated. There's a lot of comorbidities. The other thing is that the physicians or nurses don't have unlimited time to deal with these patients. So what physicians typically would do is they'll start with a dose of diuretic. We'll see if that patient responds over the next 24 hours. If when they round the next morning, if that didn't work, they'll escalate the dose. And this goes on and on and on. And this is why it takes so long for these patients to get treated today. What's interesting is 80% of physicians prefer a low and slow approach because they don't want to get into a kidney issue with these patients. Makes sense. That's what leads to 6 days. But despite that approach, most of these patients are bouncing back to the hospital. 20% of them within the first 30 days, 40% of these patients are back within 90 days. And so this is a significant burden on the health system. It needs some innovation. So we believe Reprieve is uniquely positioned to really personalize decongestion management. So the system you see on the left is actually done anywhere in the hospital, typically in the med-surg or cardiology floors. You can, all you need is an IV and a Foley catheter. And what we do is once we see the patient up and running, we go through a dose-finding algorithm where we personalize the dose of diuretic that patient is going to immediately respond to. Once we get to that dose of diuretic, because we've seen urine output go up, then we know that we've gotten to the right dose, we maintain that dose, we monitor that dose, and at the same time, which is a little bit counterintuitive, we give saline back to patients. You say, why would you give saline back to a fluid overload patient? It seems, that would be the opposite of what you want to do. The real reason is you want to keep diuretic resistance under control and moderate the effect of those diuretics on the kidney. And so that allows us to be faster, but also safer to get these patients decongested and out of the hospital. So let me just show you a case really quick. I'm going to build this out. On the top is what we actually see the system is seeing. It's effectively what a physician would do if they had perfect information and had the time to sit at the bedside. So you see the blue line is urine output, the light blue line is the saline we give back, and the red is both the spikes or the dosing algorithm and the maintenance of the diuretic. So we eliminate all the inefficiencies within the current system because we are looking at real-time urine output to drive this whole closed-loop system. The goal is to then really consistently take fluid off patients. And so this patient is a good example. They lost 14 liters. Think about that. That's almost 30 pounds in 2 days. And most importantly, with zero impact on their kidney function. So this is really a step change in what we can do for these patients. As I mentioned, we've treated over 200 patients. I'm going to go through the key results of the 100-patient randomized trial we just completed and presented. And we used all of this information to kind of power the pivotal trial that we're getting ready to start here in the next few months. All right. So here are the key results from the trial. What you can see is it was the faster trial. So the dark blue is what Reprieve has done. The red are all the other contemporary diuretic strategy trials that have been published in the last 10 years. What you can see is, and again, this is per day. These are kilograms lost per day. Reprieve is 2 to 3 times faster than the best physicians around the world to take this off. So that's 9 pounds per day on average we're able to get off patients. On the right-hand side is, can you do that safely? So worsening renal function is the biggest thing that physicians are concerned with. And what you can see here is Reprieve is the first therapy to prove that you can get more fluid, decongest these patients quickly, without a corresponding increase in the risk of worsening renal function. That allows us to also then talk about what are the other benefits of the system. And so not only were we faster, we think there's a length of stay. We know there's a length of stay benefit, as well as a trend towards a reduction in death and rehospitalization through the next 90 days. Those are the things that we'll be studying in our pivotal trial, but we see a really significant opportunity to change the paradigm of care here. So then lastly, and what I want to leave you guys with, is where we think this is going. We want to transform acute heart failure management. And it's just like so many other technologies and so many other things in cardiology that started with physicians, working with the emergency room because most of the patients are showing up at the emergency room. And just like an acute coronary syndrome or pulmonary embolism treatment, stroke care, or cardiogenic shock, all these technologies enabled hospitals to build these programs and develop a better patient journey within the hospital and fundamentally change care. And we think Reprieve is the ability and the technology to help hospitals transform acute decompensated heart failure care going forward. We're looking forward to starting the pivotal trial later this year and to proving that out with our physicians and our hospital administrator partners around the world. Thank you for the time today.